Everyone, welcome. My name is Francesca. This is Critical Babe Theory. And today, Brian Wood is joining me, founder of Panodime. Hi, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Yeah. It's not as freezing as it was.
No, it's not, which is nice. And, there's enough dystopian things going on that we don't need freezing temperatures.
Would AI love this weather because it gets so hot?
You know, what's funny is I actually thought last night, this is a related thought, but I just had a thought when I was taking, my dog needed to go out at like 3 a.m, and I had a thought.
Why?
He was like kind of sick, and I was like, man, like, this sucks, but what sucked more is like all these things that these people are creating. And like, I don't know, it's weird. I had this weird thought of like, just so much of this stuff, like, it's so deeply like makes me like scared and sad, and like I try not to like live in that world all the time, but like I just want to be able to take my dog out at 3 a.m. and not worry about it, if that makes sense.
And not worry about AI.
Like, yeah, like there's enough like there's enough shitty things, you know, like there's enough shitty things in the world. Like it's freezing, it's 3 a.m, like my dog's sick, like I don't need like existential risk or like people taking over the planet. Like, we don't need that. Haven't
we always had existential risk? Isn't every age the age that everyone thinks is the final age?
That's a great question. I mean, I think that there's, everyone has that perception, I guess, in whatever time you live, right? But, I mean, what was that Thomas Paine quote during the American Revolution? These are the times that try men's souls, right? Like that kind of stuff. But I feel like this is unique in that, like, this is the most, by far the most powerful technology we've created, and it's such a unique moment in history where power and wealth are so concentrated and technological control are so concentrated, and that's really like, I feel particularly uneasy about the sort of confluence of factors that are happening right now.
I was even thinking recently, like, it's worse than kings these days. Like,
yeah, I mean, there's a real argument to be made for that. I think that it's heading in that direction ultimately, and you're talking about people that want to control everything without consent. Like, that's their genuine ambition. So like, it's not like they believe in democracy, or they believe in like true freedom, or they believe in consent, or they believe in humanity. They kind of see these things as obstacles, which is very disconcerting.
But even from like a more baby perspective of numbers, like the amount of people who hold the majority of power right now in the world is such a smaller number than when there would have been all these little kings around, which, like, this is me really truly making something up, but let's say like height of king situation. What were there, like probably like 7,000 to 9,000 kings in the world, right?
Just like local kind of
just like
local
leaders
kings.
Or whatever. We got France, we got England, we got some different, Italy was always, I mean, I'm just Eurocentric because that's literally the only history I remember. But, or is it the only history they taught me?
That might be it. It might have been what they taught us. It's tough. It's tough to know.
But now with these tech executives and corporate executives who run the world, like, there are not 7,000 to 9,000 of them. There are, like, I'm also making up this number, 300.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a ton. I mean, the power gets concentrated. I mean, even if there's only so many at the top, right? That control, that kind of control the ones below them. So it is a very like sort of feudal kind of system we're heading towards, and that makes me extremely uneasy as someone that grew up with like being told that like, hey, you live in America. This is, a representative democracy. This is about like liberty and freedom and the pursuit of happiness and consent, and like, I don't see that in the things these people say. I see the opposite, and it makes me very uneasy.
Totally, which led you to, I guess first, so your background is, and we don't have to talk about this extensively, but
I'm happy to talk about it.
So you were a lawyer. You are a lawyer.
I am, and I was, yeah. Okay. But I don't really practice that much anymore. Okay. I'm doing my friend's lost wages case, but I just do that kind of stuff to help out.
So you're a pro bono bleeding heart lawyer right now.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, great. So what law did you study?
I studied just kind of how, so in law school you don't really have a concentration. You kind of make your own adventure, but I studied a lot how corporations affected the world, and how a sort of naive psychology was baked into corporations and our law that makes people responsible for things they aren't responsible for, or gives too much power to certain groups, and just trying to understand how the legal system functions in society. That's really what I studied a lot in school. So
naive psychology? What do you mean? So you're saying? Can you explain that to me?
Sure. So like a lot of times people are treated in law as though they're these completely rational actors, and most people don't operate like that. So people are held to a higher standard than maybe a reasonable person. There's this reasonable person standard that goes throughout the law, and what a reasonable person would do who, say has no income and no opportunity is very different than what a reasonable person do who has all the income and all the like. It would be very weird if a billionaire was like, stealing a loaf of bread, whereas like someone that needs to survive would like, you could understand why they might take food to survive, right? I'm not like, could you understand it, but you would say like, I get that, like go for it, like take it, like you should have that. So, it's just a very, it's a very different world depending on where you stand, and law doesn't always recognize that.
Okay, got it. And so then you practiced law for a period of time, and then what prompted your decision to stop doing that and to get into the work you do now?
So law is just tough because I think it's very hard to change society through law. Like I thought I was going to be an activist through law, and I really respect the people that do that. But ultimately, law is a set of rules. So and you have to change the rules to change the system, really. And I didn't want to function within the rules, if that makes sense. So that's kind of why I got out of it.
You didn't want to function within the rules.
Yeah, the rules don't work. So
the rules don't work.
I think ultimately, the rules are problematic. And not to say that like I do love a lot about the American Constitution and a lot about our legal system, but there's a lot of stuff that is highly problematic.
So the specific rules in America don't work, or the very notion of rules doesn't work?
I think the specific rules that we have generally don't. I believe in law and order. I believe in rules. I think it's very important to have a system and institutions that kind of keep some sort of coherence across time and like protect minority rights and protect all sorts of things. Protect real true human rights no matter who's in power, right? Like it shouldn't be like party A is in power so your rights change, or party B is in power so your rights change, right? Like there should be a consistent notion of like freedom and liberty and all these sorts of things that kind of go across society no matter who's in power, right? So that's more of what I believe in law. Like the problem with our legal system is now it's generally run by people with, again, very special, wealthy interest and powerful interest that create the rules that benefit them and don't benefit other people, essentially.
Okay, so which prompted you to start is it a foundation? Is it a nonprofit? What are you?
Panodime. It's a company. So we're actually building sort of our own technology to fight back here, which includes like things like how to like a community for people to come together and to talk about deepfakes and understand like what's real and what's not, and to actually so if they see a video on social media and they're not sure, they can post that on our app and say like, hey, is this sure? And the community can come together and say
really?
Yeah, so stuff like technological solutions that are human powered ultimately is kind of what we're going for.
And your overall goal is that AI be sort of like in the hands of and for the benefit of all? Yeah,
well, I also just want it to be democratically controlled. So to take even one step back, I think that people should be able to decide to pull the plug if they want to on AI and pull the plug on development. So I think that's a really important right that people should have, is to say like, look, we don't want this and this shouldn't continue, so let's stop. And that's a very complex decision that people would have to make, but it shouldn't be, again, like it shouldn't be a few billionaires and a few elites deciding like, hey, this is the direction humanity's going in with the most powerful technology ever. It shouldn't be like that. So
like a legislative referendum, like an electoral referendum on whether or not we want to continue even having AI.
Yeah, and just more direct democratic control, or at least like have this almost needs its own unique. I mean, I've written up and kind of dreamed up different regulatory regimes that could work for this, but it almost needs its own. It's so powerful; it needs its own regulatory, unique regime, and the people that run it are anti any regulation. So it's very difficult to get anywhere near that without sort of fundamental systemic change, and that's kind of what we're advocating for at the end of the day. Right,
because most of these tech CEOs and AI CEOs are they self-identified libertarians?
A lot of them are. I mean, a lot of them are just they just think that technology solves all the problems, but they generally see the problems as like that there's not enough freedom for them to do what they want, which is to control society or direct it in the strange ways they want to direct it.
How do they want to direct it?
Well, I mean, you could take some of the strangest. That's like Peter Thiel is a great example, but he talks about how he's very into transhumanism. So there's a lot of psychology again baked in here, but if you look at, I think he's frustrated with human mortality and human limitations.
Oh, it's such a bummer.
It is, right? It is. But he wants to like transcend his own humanity, and like this weird, not in the way of like, okay, like we all want to live, right? Like we all would like to be, happier or safer or all these things, right? But he seems to want to create a new species, and he wants to be part of that new species, and he doesn't want to do that with consent. He doesn't want to do that with, it's this whole sort of transhumanism movement that's like, we can replace ourselves, we can put ourselves in the cloud, we can be things that we never were, we can enhance ourselves with Neuralinks and all sorts of things. And this isn't something that like he wants people to consent to. He openly says that. He openly says like democracy fails partially because of because of women. He says
I know
that's actually one of his things.
He doesn't think women should vote.
Yeah, which is just again the fact that that's becoming a normal thing to say nowadays. That's like not outside the Overton window just blows my mind. But that's a longer discussion. But anyway, I think like the real issue again comes back to the fact that he has these really strange visions for society and wants to implement them without people's consent. And he knows he can't. He knows his ideas are so strange that he can't get people to consent. But his technology is so powerful that he's trying to make it so it doesn't matter, that he doesn't need it.
Didn't he try to like start a country on the ocean?
Yeah, so he wrote an article back in 2009 about 3 ways to escape democracy, essentially. I mean, that should have been the title. It's called The Education for the Libertarian, but it should really be that. But his 3 ways were technology, outer space, and the ocean. So it was to either like reform society with technology, and by reform I mean not in the classical sense of like democratic reform. I mean like take over. So that's a better word. Go to outer space and be like, well, can I curse?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, it'd be like, fuck this. Like we're going to space. Like fuck all these people. They don't get it. Like we're gonna go do our own crazy thing out here.
But here's something, this is pretty stony, so stay with me. Because both the ocean and space are like very emblematic of the deep feminine.
Yeah.
Which is like they are in darkness, in secrecy, unknowable.
That's true. I feel like they're often referred to with like female pronouns.
Yeah, and like because these are things like that are so big they cannot be mentally encompassed. And did you see Ad Astra?
I
that
didn't.
movie,
No.
Oh my God, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Basically, and this is not my idea, some critic was talking about how like Brad Pitt has such bad daddy issues, he like goes to Saturn.
Yeah.
But it just really like, I love the idea of Peter Thiel, who like doesn't think women should vote. I don't think it would be a stretch. I'm sure he self-identifies in private circles as a misogynist.
Yeah, I don't think it's a stretch. I mean, he seems to have some weird things going on.
Yeah, he doesn't like women. I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say I don't think he likes women.
No, I don't think so. I mean, he thinks women are kind of antithetical to freedom. So I mean, I think I would say that like that would classify as not liking women.
How does he feel about his like mother's uterus?
That's a great
built
question.
Him?
He probably wants to eliminate uteruses. I would imagine he would. I imagine that's part of his project is to say like eliminate female. I've never actually taken that to that logical conclusion, but he probably wants to eliminate the need for female.
Eliminate the feminine, and yet
eliminate the need for women reproducing.
Drawn to enter the endless, infinite space of deep femininity and unknowability, which is truly a place of peril for man.
Yeah.
Like the ocean is, let's just say, famously unfriendly, as is space, and that he's so called to go into the thing that which he hates is sort of poignant. It
is, and I think there's this element of him wanting to tame reality that like these people fancy themselves as like these extremely, quote, I'm going to say masculine in quotes here because wouldn't be my definition of masculinity, but like to go, sort of conquer the ocean and conquer space and conquer this and conquer. They don't really care about like justice or fairness or equality or, true freedom. Like freedom to them is again freedom to like own everything.
Right.
They have these weird, just outside the Overton window views that they just are trying to put, enact on the world or just escape. I mean, that was his whole thing. Like he talks about it quite a lot. I'll just point this out real quick because I think it's kind of fascinating. He talks about how he got really depressed and I think it was law school. I can't remember if it was when he was in college or law school, but he got super depressed because he was trying to advocate for these ideas and people just weren't buying it. And he was like, well, like, what do I do? And he said, well, if I were conservative, I would have turned to alcohol, but I was a libertarian, so I turned to drugs. And and so he started turning to drugs, and then he was like, oh, wait, basically I can use technology to do everything I want to and take over, or I can go to space, or I can, do it in the ocean. And it's this sort of crazy, like, psychological, I feel like it's fueled by this sort of like weird, crazy psychology where he was like this kind of weird, smart kid who wasn't accepted and had these weird ideas and was like, got all depressed and was like, well, I'm going to make my ideas happen. I don't care what you think. And then... Yeah,
I mean, they're also like all kind of drug addicts.
They are.
Which is like bananas.
Yeah, a lot of them are. I mean, Peter Thiel has apparently some wild parties.
Yeah. And I mean, with the subculture, I'm sure he smokes meth. I mean, maybe that's like kind of a biased thing to say because he's gay. But I'm just going to say, like, let's put it out there. I'm sure he's smoking meth.
Nothing would surprise me.
Elon is addicted to ketamine.
Yeah.
They all are microdosing constantly. It's like, and you know what? As somebody who is a former drug user, I'll tell you, when you're high, you think a lot of things are really good ideas that then when you come to, you recognize are not good ideas. Mostly because of social shame. But they are outside the realm of social shaming and they're high all the time.
Yeah, and I think they never came to. I think they're just perpetually in that high mindset of like, I think there really is an element to that of like the psychology of like, because like you said, I mean, when you're high on certain drugs, you can be like, well, I'm going to take over the world, like what the hell? Like,
of course.
Now it's all clear to me how it all fits together. Yes. And then they get these ideas and they come to and they're like, well, now I don't feel as good. So now I got to do it in reality.
And maybe it's easy when you're high to feel like at one with God, and you might feel like maybe then you are God.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them do have real God complexes. I mean, they seriously do. They talk about AI like a species, and they talk about like transcending human limitations, like they're building the future. I mean, Peter Thiel talks about the Antichrist all the time, which is wild.
I know, and he thinks Greta Thunberg is the Antichrist, which like of all the banal, I just like, she's so crunchy to be the Antichrist.
Yeah, no, it's a very weird target, but he has this whole thing about, peace and safety is the slogan of the Antichrist, which kind of tells you where his head's at. But yeah, then he misquotes Bible verses that like he quotes like Thessalonians 5:3, which I've actually looked at quite a bit after he quoted it. And basically the idea in that Bible verse is pretty simple. It's that like when people turn towards earthly things and turn away from God, that's a problem. That's all that Bible verse says. It doesn't say that like peace and safety is a problem. Yeah.
So, for when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's he misappropriates that quote, which basically means that like you're turning away from God to be too worried about earthly pursuits.
I love that it talks about a woman with child. We're really threading together all of his interests.
I forgot that said that. Yeah, he probably likes that too. Yeah, so it's a very strange headspace he operates in, and his whole Armageddon thing. It's funny because he talks about he blames people for talking about the Armageddon who are actually just trying to preserve society, and then he's creating Armageddon, which is ironic.
Right. Now, okay, I feel like this makes me feel like a 12-year-old boy. But do you feel like, are you more concerned about climate change Armageddon or AI Armageddon? Which one's first?
Honestly, I think with the pace of AI, probably AI Armageddon is first. I mean, climate change is obviously a very serious problem, but I think that I don't think people appreciate the depth of the problems AI can create. And that comes from two angles, I think, primarily. The first being like creating this immense power for a group of the elites who control it. And the second is creating a machine so powerful that we can't control it. So those are the sort of two sides. And people talk about the Terminator scenario a lot, but people don't talk as much about the elites scenario. So I'm happy to talk about either, whichever one.
Let's talk about it all, but hasn't anybody seen 2001 Space Odyssey?
I know,
Hello,
right?
Hal is not friendly.
No.
Crazy.
Bad context window.
Totally. I will say, disclaimer, I'm a Luddite.
Yeah.
If left to my druthers, I would use a typewriter. This is a MacBook Air.
Yeah.
over a decade old. Maybe it's 13 years old now. I get
It's
a lot
impressive.
of...
It still works. They usually throttle this. I feel like they throttle the operating system.
They throttle. Oh yeah, no. It always gives me notes that this operating system will shortly no longer, which like is sort of. I love the frisson of that. FRISSON. So if left to my druthers, and I understand that like maybe my being a Luddite comes from a character defect on my part. You know, I'm a nostalgicist. I sort of am prone to believe that what was prior was better, which I understand is like just a bias.
Yeah.
There is no platonic truth to that.
Yeah.
But that's where I'm coming from. So are you a Luddite too?
I don't think so. I think I just am more... I believe you should have the choice to be a Luddite, and people should have the choice. If collectively that's where society is, I think we should have the choice to do that. And that's more of where I come at it from. Like personally, I think technology is a reflection of the people that control it, and that's why it's been so bad in our society so many times, is that you have people that are not great people and don't have humanity's best interest at heart controlling tech. And so that's really the story of technology to me in so many ways in our modern world. And that's what I would change primarily. But if we can't do that, if we can't get it out of their hands, then it should be destroyed then. I mean, then it can't be a good thing.
I mean, it is. There's so many different threads I want to follow here. The first one I was thinking about how people used to talk about social media as a good, specifically how it related to the Arab Spring.
Yep.
And sort of like that was like, if we're looking at a graph, this is a fake graph in my head. If we're looking at a graph of like how helpful and effective social media was, like it peaked during the Arab Spring and then has undergone a process of like degradation and shitification. Yeah. But like AI hasn't hit its Arab Spring and maybe won't ever. What's your opinion?
Yeah, so it really comes down to, first of all, I think it's important to remember we're not controlling the most powerful models. So they're not going to let things get out necessarily that would help people organize against them. So that's a very important point to remember.
Okay.
And then that's not to say AI can't have moments where things democratize, where it helps democratize things or helps connect people. And I think to some extent here you can use the master's tools to bring down the master's house, so to speak. I mean, I think there's potential to use certain AI tools to, fix certain problems or move society forward. But at the same time, like my biggest concern is again that we're not going to have the same access to those tools or the same control over those tools. So it's like bringing a knife to a gunfight. Is that the term?
Yeah,
I was going to say it backwards,
exactly.
But
that's right.
Yeah.
But also, I could imagine, and this probably already exists, let's take a really 101 example. If I'm on ChatGPT, boop, 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 and I say, help me fight, let's do something topical. Help me fight ICE in my neighborhood. How do I know that that's not internally flagged in the system and then my name is being sent to a centralized database of people who are looking to thwart ICE?
It probably would, because I mean, so I don't know how much you know about like ICE and Palantir, but Palantir is deeply embedded. Their technology, so just in case for anyone who's listening that doesn't know, Palantir is at the core of the United States Intelligence Services, and it's an organization run by Peter Thiel, who we've been talking about. It's founded by Peter Thiel, Alex Karp, and Joe Lonsdale, who are all very much into this sort of control of society through technology. And they provide things to people, or to the government, like scores on how likely a person is to offend, or what kind of punishment a person should be given, or how to locate a person. And you're talking about these services, they provide these services and they're combined with government data. So you're talking about a lot of things being run through these services, whether it's your credit card information or your social security card, all your data is run through these systems that Palantir provides. Presumably the government keeps your data protected, but they're still using the system that assesses you as whether you're a risk or not. So to answer your question, this is the long way of getting there. You could come up as a risk in their system because you searched that. You could come up as a problem. They could target you because of that.
Yeah.
And someone could miss that, and that's a surveillance state, right? And that's
we live in a surveillance state.
It's increasingly getting there, and the technology is used to these technologies creep in because they're used to address a specific problem. That's a sort of phantom that people point at, right? They're like, oh, immigration is this problem, like you don't have a job because of immigrants, our society's breaking down because of immigrants, like we need to surveil all of them. And then that's done, and some people approve of that, some people don't, but then that gets turned on everyone in a way that no one approves of.
Because if you're going to surveil some to really get a big picture, you must surveil all.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that what happened after post 9/11?
Yeah, exactly. And then there's also just the misuse of the technology, right, for political purposes. Like, we live in a world where things are increasingly, the mechanisms of government and tech are increasingly getting used against people for political purposes. So you're talking about, oh, I don't like this person's politics, I'm going to surveil them, I'm going to track them, I'm going to say that they are likely to offend because they did X, Y, and Z, or they searched this, or they talked to this person, or whatever it is. And you start to get into that world where it's very, very, very dystopian very quickly.
And I do want to say, just as a PSA for everybody, in ChatGPT, whatever you say into ChatGPT can be held against you in a court of law.
Yeah.
So just know that it is not like privileged, private. It's not like talking to your priest. Literally, in my experience in the legal institution of this country, if you want to have a privileged conversation, it's literally only with your fucking priest.
Yeah.
Which is
therapist, priest, and lawyer.
Not even therapist.
Therapist. Well, if you what is it? If you say
you can have this therapist notes can be subpoenaed by a court.
True.
But it's like,
I thought it was only if you are threatening violence, right? Isn't that?
No.
Interesting.
So I won't tell you how I know this because I can't get into why. Yeah. But what I will tell our fair listeners is be aware that anything you say to your therapist could possibly come out in court.
Oh, interesting. Well, certainly if you use ChatGPT as your therapist, that's certainly not protected.
Yeah. So but if you want to talk to somebody who's really going to be a closed mouth friend, it is your priest.
Interesting. Good to know.
Underneath the guise of confession solely, not pastoral counseling. I'm just really getting in the weeds here so everybody has this information.
That's one person to talk to. So stop talking to ChatGPT for therapy is the point.
So I have a lot of friends who do this.
Yeah.
Now, I have so many biases. We don't have to get into this. I don't really believe in therapy to begin with. I don't really believe in ChatGPT. So to my mind, that's like, it's a double whammy. That is my antichrist, which would be exactly. Like using ChatGPT as your therapist. But I mean, and something I think we've talked about on the show before, God, my brain is so fried, is like kids who are then building a relationship with ChatGPT, who then is helping them, the kid who ChatGPT helped him kill himself. Yeah. There's obviously like so many, but why aren't people more scared?
Yeah, that's one thing I ask myself a lot. That's part of why I do what I do, is not to, and I don't want to scare people, that's the opposite of what I want to do, but I want people to be aware of the dangers and aware that we need to fix them, is really the way I come at it from. And like you said, these are very real and very profound problems where you have millions of people potentially talking to the same corporate brain, so to speak, and giving all their most intimate details to it, and all their, they're telling it their deepest, darkest secrets, and that's stuff that could be leveraged against them, or, what if, God forbid, someone took that data that didn't want them to be, free and wanted them to be in prison, and said manipulated it, or said hey, you said you were angry, you said you were super angry at your ex, and you were having horrible thoughts, we're taking you straight to prison or something like that. Or
even in a more mundane way, because AI seems thus far incapable of making any money, much like social media, which then turned into an advertising platform. I assume that at some point they're going to have to make some kind of money, right? Yeah. So why wouldn't AI just become an advertising platform? So I guess it's this implicit trust we have. Yeah. Why would I trust an ChatGPT to actually tell me the best? Let's just say one could make a judgment of what the best glue-on nails were in the world. Let's just say you could make an assessment, a scientific assessment of that. But why would I trust that ChatGPT was telling me the truth and not just somebody who paid them, a corporation that paid them to plug their products? Totally. I mean, that's completely accurate. I mean, you just really don't know, because these things are programmed ultimately by a team at OpenAI that's the sort of moral alignment team, and then they're approved by Sam Altman, the CEO. So it's really you're giving control over your therapy and over your direction to a small group of tech elites that are deciding what this thing is ultimately saying, or what it doesn't say, and not deciding in the classic sense of they're literally typing out what ChatGPT says, but they're putting in the guardrails, they're giving it direction, they're managing the outputs, they're deciding how it should look as a system. And that's something that's very, very disconcerting to me, because you're talking about you can totally manipulate and guide people, right? If you become a trusted therapist to someone and you tell them listen,
this political candidate's horrible, or you should live in this sort of way. Like you're a woman. Like, do you really want to vote? Like, do you really? It's like a huge headache, right? Like, he's like, do you really want to deal with this, or do you really want to like you could be at home like with your kids or like with your family. Like, I'm gonna make it so you don't have to worry about anything. And like like, and they start putting that like sort of propaganda that's like that. And that's something I very well see them doing, right? I mean, it's something a lot of people are already trying to do. Right? So like putting that into the propaganda and being like, hey, look, like you're really upset. Like I'm gonna make your life better, and we're gonna send this product from Amazon to your house, and we're going to send this person over to your house, and we're going to do, we're going to manage you in this way, or like, oh, you sound depressed, we're going to, mandatorily, we're going to make you take these pills, or we're going to make you like do this or do that, right? Like, there's the potential for sort of dystopian realities is almost limitless, right? Yeah. Which is very disconcerting. And that, to get back to what I was saying, is that like, I don't want people to be scared. I want them to be aware. And I want to come together to fix it. That's really where I come at it from. But
it's interesting because the American tech CEOs are like, AI is so dystopian. China.
Yeah.
If like we cannot let China build it first, so we'll build it. Which is like, look, I am not a China fan. I personally do not want to live in a totalitarian state. It's like not my vibe.
No, not mine either.
But like the idea that we need to let American tech companies have untrammeled access to acceleration to prevent China from doing all the evil things, but so that they can maybe beat them first because we just trust them is deranged.
Oh, it's completely deranged. It's like they're making us choose between totalitarianism from abroad and totalitarianism at home, right? It's like that's not a real choice. Yeah, there's a third option, and that's what I want to get people to realize is like they're going to sit here and do the fear mongering thing and say like, hey, we can't stop. Like, you can't regulate us at all. Like, yeah, sure, like, Grok is undressing women online, but like, we can't regulate that, because if we do, then China will take over. It's like, well, even the most basic regulations, like, they push back on like that, which is insane, right? Like, this is like, how you can't sit here and tell me that like you can't create a technology that doesn't sexually violate women, and then or allow men to do so, and that's you can't have a guardrail that.
Yeah.
Like that's, or like we have to have a technology that allows women to be sexually violated, or China will take us over. Yeah. It's like, you're really going to sit here and say that?
That's a false equivalency.
Exactly. It's just completely made up.
But I also feel like this sort of in my mind ties into Epstein, which is like, I think powerful men just don't really care.
Yeah. I mean, they very obviously they don't. I mean, they don't even care about like their reputations on some level, it seems like.
And I was thinking more about it, and I was like, I don't personally believe, as a Christian, I don't believe people are inherently evil.
Yeah.
So I was like, and it seems like a convenient elision to say that all these really powerful people are just like the most evil people in the world who happen to get together and do stuff. That just seems like a little pat to me.
Yeah.
But what I was wondering is like, does everybody just love to party, and in their mind the most transgressive thing is the funnest party? So like everyone wanted to party with Epstein because here was somebody who like gave into his id and his Dionysian impulses, and just the people just want the permission to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's just demented. Like I would hesitate to like even try to understand their psychology, because I feel like they're so demented on some of them are so demented, but like I do feel like it's that transgressive, like you said, this like the rules of society are a burden on us, and like and my human limitations are a burden, and like everything should be permitted, kind of like the
French, everything is permitted, nothing is forbidden. But then look what the French did. They diddled a bunch of children.
Exactly. And that's what they're doing. Literally that's what they're doing. It's crazy, and they're just doing it in the open, and they're just like, oh well, yeah, I'm in the files, whatever. Yeah, move on.
It's wild. It's beyond Rome at this point. But I do think that to me, because I'm always like, why does everybody care so much about the Epstein files? To me, they're like, I don't find them particularly moving in and of themselves. But as a symbol, they are kind of the most perfect encapsulation of what you're talking about, which is a small group of very powerful people who are constrained by nothing to pursue whatever pleasure and power they wish.
Yeah, I think I agree. I mean, I think it's the epitome of truly like that elite control, because they can just, it's just like the most sacred norms of society are if you could pick a most sacred norm, it's probably like, do not violate children, right? Like right. And they're like, well, we can do that too.
Post-Christian, yes.
Yeah.
I would say that, because Christianity really sort of, there's this woman, whatever, Louise Perry, who talks about how, I don't need to go down this too deep, but basically talks about how like we want to live in a society, even if the society isn't Christian, we want to live in a society that has some extent of Christian values, because pre-Christianity, like women, the sanctity of women and children, like just didn't exist in societies, that like they weren't granted any special, like weakness was not correlated with protection. And like we want Christianity to win for that reason only, So anyway, yes, I would agree with you that in our society, in this like a post-Christ society, like the value of women and children, but I would say that probably these days, even people who do not self-identify as Christians, except maybe like Andrew Tate, still believe that women and children have value. And what's so bold about Peter Thiel and his ilk is they're just going to throw away that 2,000 years of collective thinking. And it's like, at least it's fresh. You know what I mean?
Yeah, at least they have like a new crazy. Yeah, I mean, well, it's funny too, because Thiel says things like, oh, well, no one's going to take us seriously until it's too late. And like that kind of stuff is classic Thiel, because it's just like, well, we're just so out there and weird. People will be like, ah. And I kind of used to take him that way, and maybe 10 years ago. And as they've got increasingly powerful and increasingly integrated into this technological feudal society that they're building, now I take them very, very seriously.
I would say always take a drug addict seriously.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you know what I mean?
That's true, especially when they're super high.
When they're super high, and when they have a limitless stash that will never go away, definitely take them seriously. So we'll talk more about drug addicts in a second. We're going to take a quick break. If you want to hear the second half of the episode, please go to patreon.com/criticalbabetheory, and you can hear it there. So thanks so much. We will be right back.